right, so I'd like to start by just saying welcome, Emma.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to join me on this call.
And no, of course.
All right, now you came to a recent EFT training of mine, and I say you volunteered in one of my demonstrations to work with physical problems.
Yeah.
And we had a really, really nice result with that, didn't we?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So maybe what I'd love for you to say is tell the people who are listening to this a little bit about the physical problem that you had. That would be great.
Yeah, of course. So, about 4 years ago, I had a tumour wrapped around my ovary. So it was a massive tumour. It was 30 centimetres long and 30 centimetres wide. It was the size of a small child, really. So I had a horrible operation across my stomach. They cut me sort of hip to hip and up my tummy. And then I had another operation a couple of years later. And to be honest, although I realised I had some issues surrounding it still, I didn't realise before the training how it was affecting me physically. So my posture, as we were talking, my posture, I was sat very hunched over. I've never, since the operations, not felt connected to my core in my stomach. It's always felt, I think we used the word dead weight, didn't we? It felt like I had a bum bag on my tummy with rocks in, basically. Didn't feel connected to my body. My legs were very weak, my arms were very weak. And prior to all of this, I was really, really fit. So I almost knew that I had them, but I'd become used to living with them, I think is where I was at. So yeah, as we started talking, I was like, oh, I don't know if it really affects me still. And then all of a sudden I was like, but actually my posture's really bad, and my stomach and my arms and my legs. And so yeah, that's the background really on.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point, because you'd never even really considered that maybe anything could be done about this, did you?
No, and I think after, because it was such trauma to my stomach with the operations I had, I think I'd almost resigned myself to the fact that this is just how life was going to be now, for the rest of my life, actually. So it almost wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I wasn't like, right, I need to fix this, because I just didn't think it could be. I thought that was it,
Yeah, and I would say that would be quite a normal response for most people to feel and think that way, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah. I think because, I was like, well, I've been cut in half twice. So, what can be done after that? And really interesting.
And interesting that prior to working on and tapping on, when we were in the pre-discussion, you were talking about, oh yeah, I need to hunch over to it's protecting my stomach to stay safe.
Yeah, I had and it's something that's been on my mind, because as your posture goes down in your neck, you get this thing in the middle of your neck, don't you? And I said to you at the training, I went to see I've sort of seen various physios, and putting little dots on your computer and your watch to remind you to sort of sit back and sit up, and but obviously that's conscious, your life gets in the way of that, doesn't it? And you can't be looking for dots all the time.
No, I mean, to look for dots is the hard route.
Yeah. Got enough going on.
Right, yeah. You've got that subconscious stuff going on, haven't you? The safety.
Yeah.
Trying to protect the body.
Very much so. And I think that with my stomach, because after the surgery I had staples all the way across, so I was so protective of that area, understandably. I didn't want anything touching it, my dogs, if I walked past anything, I was very protective, and I didn't realise that my body had stayed that way for the last 4 years, ultimately. It stayed hunched over.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking 4 years of being hunched over there, really.
Yeah.
Quite a long time. And my thoughts would be that would not have got any better.
No.
It would have just, in fact, it would have got worse over time, because you're now in a very distorted body position.
Yeah.
And there's impact of that, but I also think, what we're looking at here is you were super fit before this, weren't you? I
Very
think
much so,
like
yeah.
doing the old kung fu or something.
Yeah, I was doing Thai boxing. I was, playing hockey. I was going to the gym. I was super. But I think since the surgery, it was almost too scary to get back into any of those. I was like, what if I break myself again?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been interesting since obviously the session, because it's just opened my mind again.
Well, and just when we did start the session, what I did was an evaluation with you of how the problem was currently affecting you. And we went all around the body, basically, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's why you become so aware of it, because you kind of
yeah,
you come to the back of your mind before then, the impact of it. But you were talking about weak legs, and
yeah.
very little strength in your legs. Well, what else? I know that there was so little strength in your legs that to stand up was a problem for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was standing up. So as we say, at the start of it, I was like, oh, I don't think there's much there. And then my arms feel, like even making a fist
Yeah.
with my hands, that wouldn't feel as strong. Standing up from my desk, from a chair, without pushing on the table. I wasn't even aware I was doing that really, but to then think about doing it and just standing up. Obviously the stomach just felt everything was there, that there was nothing else to my body in any way or anything, just went to my stomach. And then obviously because the core's not engaged, my back, I think there was a shoulder pain as well from hunching. So
Yeah,
literally a can of worms, wasn't it?
it was a kind of there were so many symptoms, such weak legs, weak arms, and what we did, I mean, we did a couple of things to get a way to evaluate the progress, wasn't it? I think I had you stand up, turn sideways to the camera, and we were all guessing the angle from vertical.
Yeah.
Because I had some other people, the other trainees there, and we were kind of getting some. I think Tony gave a second opinion, didn't he?
I think I was at about 45 degrees, wasn't it? I was actually sat in my chair.
So we were using that as one way to evaluate progress. The other thing was I asked you to stand up.
Yeah.
So we wanted to see how, and I also made sure that you sat in a specific body position so that we could replicate it, so that our test would be valid. So we adjusted your position at the beginning, but when you initially stood up, it was certainly with the hands. The strength in the arms, but at the end, just say what you did. There was a little cheeky look on your face when you did it as well.
I just stood up, and it was weird because this chair, so I'm sitting in the same chair, because obviously it was on Zoom. I'm sat in the same chair at my desk, and I was measuring my shoulders were about here below this white shelf behind me. So then when you asked me to stand up, I was just like, oh, okay.
And you just, in the early examples when the problem was there, you just stood up, pushing up,
pushing up.
And at the end, you couldn't wait to just stand up without it, because you knew before you even did it that there's a lot more strength in your body, didn't you?
Yeah, very much so. And it was that protection I was holding on to. I was like, don't do that. Don't, use your hands.
And that weight, you called it a bum bag earlier on, that really solid, and I think you said it was like a 10-pound weight.
Yeah.
At the start of your belly, stomach, that area of your body. That went, didn't it?
Just went, and that is something that it was just really strange, because I've had that for 4 years, and I thought because of, I suppose it was similar to a cesarean, a bit of a bigger cut than a cesarean, but still the same. And it's I just thought that was it. I was always going to have that scar tissue there, and that's what it was actually. And then the next day, I took the dogs out in the morning, and I've got these tracky bottoms that I wear to walk the dogs. And then the next morning, I went out with the dogs, and I was stood in a field. The dogs were running around doing whatever, and my trousers fell down all the way down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and I said to you next day, I was like, I've just been stood in a field in my knickers. And, you know, I 100%, you know, they're the same trait. I say I wear them every day to walk the dogs. And it was just because that weight in my stomach and obviously my posture as well, you know, not hunching over, holding them. So, yeah, I literally felt like that 10 pound weight just went. Like, yeah, incredible.
And it's interesting that you have that as your convincing evidence when you stood in that.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think, yeah, I mean, I didn't have lose 10 pounds overnight, so.
I mean, that is a big convincer, isn't it? That there's something
Very much so.
very different about your physiology
Yeah.
for that to happen. And
very much so. And I felt, and like in the morning when I was making coffee, I said to you, like, I just felt, I hadn't felt my stomach for a long time. It was like, I think I used the analogy of your ear, like, you know, your ear's there, but you don't feel your ear, I don't think. And when I was making coffee the following morning, my core felt engaged. I was like, oh, hello, we have got some organs and skin and things there.
Yeah. Now we use the chase the pain, which goes into the problem that you have, tunes in, targets through the physical, how you're physically experiencing this. So we were using it in the words in the EFT, you know, the description of that 10-pound weight and how you describe that. I know we also tapped on the scars, I think, as well, because you know, I think people think, oh, the scars, whatever, but that was part of the problem. I think at some level, something was there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And it, I think, because as I say, that's where the staples were, and I suppose I felt that was the root of everything, which it wasn't. You know, the scar was ultimately what helped me. You know, it got it out. So, and yeah, as we were tapping on it, I remember saying to you, it got so hot, the scar.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like when I first got it done. You know, when you have got a scar of some sort, it generally is that burning hot feeling, isn't it? And it just got like a rush across my stomach, and then I think I started crying and then laughing, and then it just went. It just went. It's very strange.
We stayed with that, didn't we? You know, I know tears came up, but I was kind of demonstrating chase the pain, so I stayed with.
Yeah.
I didn't actually veer off and go down an emotional type of place. I just went with, because I knew whatever it was had just come up at that moment, and we just continued to tap. And
and it was, and you know, the tears and the laughter. It was relief. You know, I remember that night I called my friend, and it was just pure elation, really. I was like, oh my God, you never guess what's just happened.
I remember there was another interesting point in that. It's where you suddenly say, we're doing the tapping and we're making progress. I mean, on the first round, we did the tapping. You said, oh, I don't think anything's changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went and I checked everything, because sometimes my experience is when people say, I don't think anything's changed, it's because maybe something has changed, but they haven't quite zoned in on it. Yeah. Because they've still got something there. And that was, I think, what the case was. We then did the second round, and it becomes far more obvious with each round that we did, things were changing.
Yeah.
You know, and I also say, what was it? You know, as we tap, this is an interesting point, because I think there was a point where you say, oh, I feel my clothes, I feel the waistband on, and you can interpret that multiple ways. You know, I could have interpreted, oh, what's happening? Is this going wrong? But no, what it was is feeling returning to the area.
Yeah.
You know, which is an interesting point. I think I'm getting so busy on this phone, I should have turned the thing off. But I think that's the interesting point, because you weigh up, all right, where are we going with that? Yeah. But it was actually just part of the natural process of healing, the whole returning of feeling, not a negative, that you're now suddenly feeling this, you're feeling that, the physical sensations coming through.
Very much so, yeah. I think, yeah, as you say, it's the waistband on my trousers, and I was aware of my clothes more, and where I think prior to that, it'd just been numb almost, like.
Yeah, and I think you hadn't really noticed. I mean, it's often
No.
more difficult to notice what's not there
Yeah,
and what
exactly.
is there.
Yeah.
And, with all of that, I'm thinking, an interesting result. So I haven't asked you this since we did that work. Yeah. Now, so 0, say, is where you started with this problem, and 10 is 100% improvement. What number would you give to that?
Easier 9.
All right. So
Yeah.
if I was working with you on that, I'd say what lets you know you're not a 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be my starting point to now go for what else is there. Mhm.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the last little bit, I suppose if we're talking physically, it'll be a 9 because maybe I'm too scared to say a 10. So I think, the rest of it is a psychological, we discussed it, it's a psychological trauma that I went through just with the whole scenario. It was a rough time. So, I think if I worked on that side, then I could then say, no, you're all right. You can be a 10 and it's okay. So
Yeah, yeah. So, there is more that you can do, but physically you've got near all of everything back. Am I right?
very much so, yeah.
So what can you do now that you couldn't do before?
So stand up without pushing on the table. My posture's a lot better, I've noticed, and as a result, my clothes just fit differently.
Mhm.
When you start to lose weight or you go on some sort of health kick and you get that thin feeling,
Yeah.
it's kind of in the pit of your tummy, isn't it?
Mhm.
I've had that the last week or so since the tapping that we did, and I haven't had that for a long time. There's just been no sensation there. So that, although it's hard to put into words, it's more of a feeling than what I can pin it to. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm starting yoga in a few weeks. I'm gonna start getting back into things, and it's get my fitness back there.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
I don't think as well, just to put the final word in, I don't think you expected to get that result, do you?
At all, no.
No.
No, to a problem that, as I say, it wasn't even, when we were discussing it, didn't even realise how much it was affecting me. So to get a result for something that's changed everything is incredible. So thank you.
I know I said that'd be the final word, but there's one other question. Have you ever asked your doctors or mentioned this problem to your doctors?
All of them, yeah.
And what had they said back to you?
So I've been for physio, I've been to the chiropractor, I've been to, they've tried to put me on amitriptyline for nerve damage. Yeah, they've tried various bits and bats. They tried to refer me to a psychologist about anxiety around my stomach. None of which have worked, because they weren't, I felt they weren't going to the root of the problem.
Yeah. How long would you say we tapped for, by the way?
Oh, I don't think it was more than 10 minutes, was it?
It wasn't very long.
10, 15, maybe 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
All right, so 10 or 15 minutes and 90% result, and you think the other part of it might be a little bit of the psychology part of it.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining me here today and telling about that. So let's see where you go with that in your future.
Very much so, yeah. No, thank you so much. I'm, very excited by it now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.